first speaker after the lunch. It is the counselor at the Embassy of Iraq to the EU and the Vice Ambassador of Iraq. Please welcome Mr. Yasser Al-Madawi.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Yasser Al-Madawi. I'm the Deputy Ambassador of Iraq to Brussels, representing Iraq for the Kingdom of Belgium, Luxembourg, and the EU and NATO as well. I'm so pleased, and it was my honor to attend this event to support the Assyrian all around the world, not just in Iraq, of course. I'm aware that I have a limited time, so I will try to be direct in my speech and touch the main points if I could. In fact, if I would like to start, I will try to avoid the historical background of Assyrian, but I'm sure everybody is aware about this historical point, but I would say that we are talking about a population who has been found 7,000 years before the Christianity. And this is something real. We all know this. And regarding this issue, of course, we have to give the right estimation for such a historical population. In fact, if I would say that there is a fair down for this population among all these historical periods and centuries. But the worst situation what Assyrians has faced was ISIS attack or Islamic State for Iraq and Syria attack against them. We all know Mosul, the second biggest city in Iraq. It was the main city for Assyrian for a long time. And up to the time when ISIS has invaded the city in 2014, unfortunately, they've been living in a friendly way with the Iraqi community, Iraqi population, completing them. So after the fall down of Mosul, which it has happened on 10th of June 2014, and unfortunate withdrawal of Iraqi army that time, ISIS demanded Assyrians to enter to Islam or pay tribute, or the third hard, tough destiny is demolished or executed, unfortunately. So the ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, I think everybody knows who's Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, declared that time that Christians, not only the Assyrians, must enter to Islam or pay or be killed. Later on, he has changed it after a few months to ask them even enter to Islam or leave or kill. Then finally, because of this situation, Assyrians unfortunately had to leave with force this city and this area. And not just the city, also many other villages. Mainly, they went to Nineveh plain and to some parts of Kurdistan region. Of course, the circumstances which came with this ISIS invasion of Mosul, was also not just displaced the Assyrians or the Christians, also they allowed themselves to use them properties as Islamic properties, even for headquarters, or demolish them by bombing them, blowing up them. It's an unfortunate situation, we all suffered from it. And I can assure you that this situation didn't come just for Christians in Iraq, it came for Iraqi population all. And I think the evidence for that later on, when the Iraqi army could rearrange itself and start another activities, they all moved to Mosul to liberate it. And by grace of God, we got this goal and it has been liberated. I know that it took several years, but finally we reached the goal. I know by August also 2014, ISIS captured the main Assyrian towns like Karakosh, if I'm not mistaken, Karakosh, Telki, Bartella, Karamish, also the name, which prompting also the residents that time, the residents, the Assyrian, to flee, to escape from these villages and cities, towns. That time, according to our estimation, official estimation, 100,000 Christian population has been displaced from these towns and villages, unfortunately, because of disease. Also, they all escaped to Nineveh plains and to the some parts of Kurdistan region. I would like to enter to some subject, which is the introduction of the Iraqi government officially. I would like first to define how we deal, what is the term of Iraqi minorities. There is a conference named Vienna Conference in 1994. It has defined legally what is the meaning of minority. So it's saying that the national and religious minorities are the groups that have become a minority within the borders of the state, the same borders of the state, not out of the state, within the border of the states as a result of historical events against their will. They didn't like it, they didn't want it, but they must do this, unfortunately. And the relationship between such a minority and its population and the state is a permanent relationship with the citizens of this country. Like it's a part of the population of the country. So even according to this definition, we have to realize that the minorities, whatever will be the conditions, is a part of the population of the country, and we deal in this concept. We deal with this concept. So, coming to the minorities in Iraq, the small national minorities and religions in Iraq lived through the ages distinguished and very well treated by activities, vitality, skill, in many provinces, not in just one part of the life, all the parts of the life. They even participated in the national Iraqis in the progress of the culture of Iraq, of course. They are a part of the culture of Iraq during the 20th century, and this is a basic thing everybody knows about it. Now, Assyrian citizens are a part of Iraqi population. They are complementary to the Iraqi people. And Iraq insists to maintain this one united entity. And the government also insists on the survival of the Iraqis' unity and territorial integrity. The Constitution of Iraq is the social contract of the country, as well as the other constitutions, because we define that the Constitution is the contract, a social contract for the population and for the country, which is the legal base of the establishment of societies and the organization of its activities and maintenance, its sustainability and manner that ensure the balance of society. This is all the Constitution. And here is the focus of the Iraqi Constitution on the rights of minorities, including Christian minorities. If you would say that there is some articles in the Iraqi Constitution regarding the minorities and the conditions of these minorities, I would say that there is several ones. Article 3, for example, is saying directly, Iraq is a multi-ethnic, religious, and sectarian country. So, Iraqi Constitution defined that there is groups and different groups, multi-ethnic, religious, and sectarian. So the Constitution announced this and defined them. Article 4 granted the right to teach any language of any group in the society, including the minorities groups, the language of minorities groups. Of course, with the right conditions. For example, that there is a private schools teaching in that area or this area established by this group or a part of that group, so they have the right also to use their own language, and of course besides the basic languages of the country. Article 10 is guaranteeing the religious shrinks, all religious, not one. So, the whole Article 10 is saying the holy and religious shrinks in Iraq are religious and civilizational entities, and the state is committed to ascertain and maintaining its sanctity, and to guarantee the free practice of the worship. So it means that the practice of any religion is guaranteed by the Constitution. Nobody could interrupt you to practice your religious practice. It's a free. Article 14. Iraqis are equal before the law, without distinction, as to race, nationality, origin, color, religion, creed, belief, opinion, economic or social status. So all people is equal before the Constitution and the law. There is no division between one religion or other religion. They are all equal before the law. Now, if I'm saying something about the constitutional articles, which is not matching the practice, this is something else, because once we come to the legislation articles of the law, which is ruling the high level of all the laws, because it's the highest law, so it means that this is a principle. It must be followed. If the practice is not matching, it doesn't mean that there is a right situation. It means that there is a wrong situation. Article 37. The state guarantees the protection of the individual from intellectual, political, and religious corridor. Okay. It means that it's guaranteeing that there is a freedom for individuals, for them believe, them practice, of course without interrupting others or affecting others. Because in this matter we will enter to a very critical point, which is you are interrupting the others from practicing their own life in freedom. Article 39, freedom of association and political parties is guaranteed. This is clear. Article 40 and 41 and 42 talking Iraqis are free to abide by their personal statutes according to their religion, sector, belief or choice. It's guarantee the practice of religious rites. Of course, we don't miss to mention that Iraqi constitution guarantees the necessary representation of minorities inside the parliament. So Iraqi constitution and Iraqi parliamentary practice is guaranteeing the representative of minorities within the parliament, because they has to own some voice, some sound inside the parliament. Otherwise, maybe we will lose the connection. And we all know that the parliament is the highest legislation authority in the country. So Iraqi constitution guarantees the necessary representation of the minorities in Iraq to be represented in the parliament, and the Assyrian also have this right. The representatives are in the parliament, and there is some names I have. We don't have to mention because these names maybe they will change for the future, so we are not about the names. But even now, even before, and even later, we guarantee that we are sure that the Iraqi constitution given this right and nobody can interrupt us from using it. We also know that the interest of Iraqi parliament, together with the Iraqi government, to ensure Iraqis' territorial and communal unity. This is what the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the head of the parliament, if you would say, the Speaker of the Parliament, went during his speech in the celebration held by the Assyrian Democratic Movement in commemoration of the targeting of the Christian component in the Nainawa Plain at the 7th of August 2017, 1 month and a half ago, almost 2 months ago, where he said during his speech that the parliament is keen to preserve the rights of the right of the component of the Iraqi people through legislation that achieve justice and equality. This was the speech of the Speaker. He called to block the ways to all those who wanted to divide the people of Iraq, stressing that as we join, this was the text of his speech, the Speaker's speech, as we joined for defeat who occupied our cities, our Iraqi cities, and he means the terrorism, and especially ISIS, until today, reached a stage what we promised, even if it has came late, to prepare the last page of the dark era after it had covered nearly a third of the country, because we all know almost one third of the country territorial was occupied by terrorism or affected by terrorism. So, what had happened before for Assyrians and what is happening now for Assyrians doesn't mean that the Iraqi government doesn't feel it or doesn't try to treat it somehow constitutionally and according to the umbrella, under the umbrella of the Iraqi United Population. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Al-Madawi. We're going to continue with a presentation of one of the board members of the Assyrian Federation of Sweden. Please welcome Kara Hermes.
Are the slides on? Shalom alaikum u'bshamatu. As you can see, I have a PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully it will be easier for you to follow my speech. So, I would like to tell you today about my annual visits to Assyria. Every year, for the last 5 years, I've been visiting Assyria with the aim to work with our cause in different ways. With my presentation, I would like to show you how to work in diaspora for Assyria. I will do that by having my own experiences as a starting point. So one of my projects I initiated was in 2013. I went to Assyria for 1 month and collected material for what later became a 2 months exhibition at the City Hall in Sweden. So I went there, met people, collected different kind of material, interviewed people, and the exhibition told the story about our past, the genocides, note that it's in plural, and the present situation. The event was highlighted by the Swedish media. Next slide, please. Here you have some pictures how it looked like. So, during February in 2014, I went with a parliamentary delegation to investigate the situation of the many Assyrian and Yazidi refugees. We visited refugee camps where tens of thousands of refugees lived in barracks. And they lived under horrible circumstances. And of course, I don't need to say that our two governments couldn't care less. The help that these refugees got in these camps were actually from foreign organizations, humanitarian organizations, and our churches. And this trip also led to an interview on the national Swedish television and also national radio in Sweden. So I want to say this is my way of trying to help my people on an individual level. To my last trip. So this was a trip, 10 days trip with a Swedish television, also national television in Sweden. So the trip resulted in a 30-minute documentary about the situation of Assyrians as the indigenous people of Iraqi Assyria, but also as a minority, a threatened minority. So please put on the documentary. I have just some minutes I would like to show you. And there's a translation in English, and most of it is, I think, in Assyrian. So I hope you'll understand.
Hamnar i kläm.
يرتعي أن إيران ذكر إيراني من إيران وهودة إذا نزلت راوتها من راوته هودة كلها شخيرة كلها أجيرة منطقة كلها أجب سنة أنا كنوا صوتا من دبرة المتحدة كنا مصورة مخزلة ودكان هنا خزلة بطريقة جواجها مختمري أنا هذه أنا شوف البابي مختلف وما صدق عديلا فما آتي أننا شقامتها ليدي وصوتية آتي ضايق آتي محرك كناش آتي وازن مشاكل قاعدة أنا كل شيء اللي كمان أرخى أنا وتنبيه تام خير لا أنا هدود ولا أشوف ما أنا قطعت تو موت على
Syrian där åkte jag och pratade med de kurder som har konfiskerat det här området.
أنا كسافر صوتي شو بدي كي لا صوتي شو بدي كسافر تمري إيشو أخي أو برادي تمري دي غني لا داني أنا تمري أي خلدي أكيد كذا أو برادي غني لو خلينا كمان شنو خبرت له أو برادي غني بسرعة ولا ما هذا محكمة النادي إذا برايا أخذ بطل أزيتو خاصة مرات تعمل طشوة لا على ما سكري هذا نهاية هذا ناشي معه.
Jag ville gärna höra kurdernas reaktion, men avstår eftersom assyrierna i så fall fruktar repressalier. Jag får ta upp frågan med det kurdiska självstyrets utrikesminister, som jag ju senare ska träffa i Erbil, KRGs huvudstad. Men nu väntar vi på klartecken att få träffa assyriernas ledare i Nala, den före detta generalen Josef Malik Kushaba. Får jag träffa generalen?
Klockan 1 faktiskt. Så ja, det fick sagt.
During Saddam, you were a general. Yes, no, I was a major, and I captured in Iran. I have been surrendered for 16 years.
Oh,
in Iran, yes.
So you spent 16 years in Iran?
16 years, yeah. That's a lot of prisoner of war.
Efter fångenskapen befordrades Josef Malik Kushaba till general.
أختي بدهق أختي محافظة دهق زوجة مخمشي اشتمت واته ادعاته رايه لو شقيلنا كلها كامل بالكامل من قبل قرداية لو شقيلنا عرات منه قرداية عراتين مزرود أخني لختي شكيوة ودهتما ورابة من قصته محكمة الجيبة الميتينة إنا تنفيذ حكمة محكمة لنا نفوذ سب أن شكينا ودعوه من دي اتلو قربايوتا بمسعود البرزاني ناشد مسعود البرزاني أن أختي قنارة كان فينا لا نعمي
قنارة آنية تسبب لك
قنارة آنية هي بخالط مسعود البرزاني
مسعود البرزاني سكسينا إدام صحيح سكسيرا ما كمينال
Massoud Barzani är det kurdiska självstyrets president.
وأنا وبصاي وزي أمي إلى خزمان البرزان.
أنا جيت وأنا خالد مسعود البرزاني وأنا رجع ناشدي وصدور أنا فقال أنا عراته وهذا تعدي ومخينا مختلف خماته وشيلنا بخير. أنا أصرش إن جو مسؤولين دور بي مسؤول برزاني خونتي وقيل من كل مسؤولين دوران بي ريشة ورياشة وقد سياسة كرداء إلى قد كل منطقة إقليم كردستان أو دالة كرد غير قومية فيها.
تابع أطراي كياشة لخا برخة بشيشنك ونبدأش ديما وقليل؟
لا لا برصرش من البيش لا خمش الضية سياسة في خاشة الله جو إقليم فينا خاشة ان كل انا صرش ان انا كل شكاية ومحاكم وخاشة مسؤولين هيك فايدة للتن اي سياسة ديالة.
Farah Mustafa Baki är det kurdiska självstyrets KRGs utrikesminister. Han är också sedan länge en nära medarbetare till Barzani och hans klan.
We have all the...
So, I don't think that I need to say more about the oppressions and how it can look like. But, so you maybe wonder why social media, why articles, why documentaries. The fact is that the social media is a really powerful tool for us as a minority to use. Since KRG, the Kurdish government, we know, and also other countries, they do care about their reputation because they do want support from the Western countries. So we know the fact that this helps. And so what has enabled my work? How come that I can do this? And there is, you can take the next slide. I would say just the fact that we all sit here is why. The world is becoming much more interconnected. Never before in human history has there existed such an intense relationship between people around the world. And we're the proof of it, the fact that we're sitting here. So how is this relevant for our cause? Social media and political issues are no longer limited to the national level. An example is Rouge 24, that you will hear more from. I won't say more than that. On the international arena, we also have different actors, human rights organizations, non-governmental organizations, which can make the oppression visible, and we need to be represented there. After my journeys and experiences, I have come to the conclusion that our work needs to be a part of a broader context. I'm sorry to say, but this isn't enough. It's not enough to work on an individual level. We need each other. We need to organize ourselves. And this, of course, in order to be able to influence on the international arena. So, and the last thing I want to say, this is why the Assyrian Confederation of Europe is needed. Assyrian Confederation becomes a really important actor for us by organizing the Assyrians in Europe towards a common goal. Thank you, this was all.
Thank you, Kara. Kara is a person I admire very much for her courage. She has the brains, she has the heart as well. So thank you. Thank you for the work that you put into the Assyrian question. Now we're going to take another quick break, shorter this time, around 20 minutes. So we'll be back in 20 minutes.